April Weiss. That's the name of a girl that I went to high school with. Her last name was spelled in a way that if I saw it today, I would think it was pronounced Weiss, but I distinctly remember that it was pronounced Weiss. Um, I was thinking about her today because over the weekend, my wife and I we saw the movie Bohemian Rhapsody about the life of Freddie Mercury, and of course, not to spoiler alert, he gets AIDS. Uh, for anybody who doesn't know who Freddie Mercury is, so that whole I guess story, that whole plot, the whole thing about AIDS and HIV back in the early or late '80s, early '90s, late '80s in the movie. Anyway, it kind of transported me back to that time because I did kind of live through the AIDS scare. Um, and it was a very unfortunate timing because about the time that I was old enough to kind of want to know what sex was all about, pretty much exactly when I became interested in that kind of thing, is when sex became a death sentence, right? Like the whole AIDS thing came up, and it was like, it was all you saw anywhere. Like it was literally, you could die from having sex. And everything was like, there was that joke in The Naked Gun where they have safe sex and they've got these like full body size condoms. Like that's what everything felt like. Like that's what it felt like you had to do to not die if you're just in the presence of another person. And it was just this perfect, scary disease because you didn't even know if you had it, and you don't know if somebody else has it, and you could have gotten it from this. I mean, it was just like the prudish anti-sex people must have been dancing in the streets when AIDS came out because it was the perfect boogeyman. And I lived through all that, and that was my experience of coming into sexuality as a teenager, as a young person, because it's still there now. AIDS is still a thing, and HIV is still a concern and everything, but it just was not what it was back then. It was so it was a death sentence back then. Today it's not, thankfully. But it was. If you weren't there, it's kind of hard to put into words just how scary the whole thing was. And because of that, my school, and again, really small town, very conservative town. I'm actually kind of surprised they did this. They did a school assembly where they had a lady come out and talk to us about HIV and AIDS, and she was herself HIV positive. So I'll be honest, I don't even remember exactly what she was talking about. What the point of it was. I don't remember if she was trying to be all like Mrs. Abstinence, or if they actually talked about things like condoms and stuff like that. I kind of wish I could remember now, because being where I came from, it's kind of an interesting topic to think about. But the thing that I remember about this assembly was she gets up there and she talks. And again, you have to understand, this was a time when like everybody was terrified of AIDS and HIV, and it was like if you knew somebody that had it, or if you had heard that somebody had it, of course nobody did in my town, or that I knew of. It was just like, it was like leprosy. It was like, get away, don't get near that person. And so they actually had this person come up, and of course she's sitting at the front of the auditorium. She's not actually near anybody, but that's just because she's at the front of the auditorium talking. And the reason why this popped up in my memory is because there was a point where people were raising their hands and asking questions. I remember none of it. I remember none of the people asking questions. I remember none of what the lady actually talked about. What I remember is April Weiss, because she stood up, raised her hand, and she stood up and said, "Can I give you a hug?" And the lady was like, "Of course." And she ran up there and she gave that woman a hug. It may sound silly now that was like such a profound thing for a person to do back then, but it was. It was a profile in bravery and courage that still stands out to me to this day. And when I was watching that movie and I was hearing, kind of transporting back in my mind to that period and that time, That's the thing that sticks out. Again, I don't remember what the lady talked about. I don't remember any of the questions or anything, but I remember that gesture that April made. I have no idea where April is anymore. I lost touch with her probably the minute I graduated high school. I have not seen her pop up on Facebook or anything that I'm aware of, but I still remember that moment of empathy and bravery that she and only she showed. So I don't know. It was just one of those things that was on my mind since I saw that movie. You never know how the little gestures you put out there will affect other people. Here I am now 20, 25 years later. I'm still remembering that and still thinking what an incredible gesture that was that she did that. And I think more highly of her because of it. Whatever it is she wound up doing with her life, I'll always remember that she did that thing. So I don't know. I don't know what the story here is other than just, embrace those moments when you can make an impact on somebody. Don't be afraid to show a little empathy and to do the right thing. That one little moment of compassion has stuck with me all these years. It's a powerful thing. Just wanted to maybe leave that out there. Take it with you. Do with it what you will. Anyway, this is a short one. This has been, I'm Joe. This has been Too Much Information. Different channel than the Answers with Joe channel. If you stumbled across this and you follow my Answers with Joe channel, this is more of a daily vlog thing where I just kind of talk about whatever's on my mind, which clearly is exactly what this one is. But if you're into that kind of thing, subscribe. And I try to do these every day or as much as I can. Anyway, so I wanted to share that with you guys. Tell me what you think. And take care of yourselves. I'll talk to you later.